So Ashok ji, welcome to this interaction of PluginIndia. Now, first question that I wanted to ask you is, India has traditionally been very strong in exports, services exports. And probably the first export that we did was Buddhism many years ago, and of course that followed up by IT. So, do you think India will be able to make a mark in manufacturing, or should we just concentrate on services as a country?
India is a very large country with very large consumption. We have 1.4 billion people, and they are increasingly getting better off, and they are consuming a lot. If you don't become a serious manufacturing country, are you going to just import everything? This is just ridiculous. So I think this question is just meaningless.
Okay.
It has to do this. It has to manufacture.
So now,
It was a very good manufacturing country before 1850.
yeah.
It was exporting a huge number of stuff.
Clothing, for example.
Not just clothing, whole lot of things.
Right.
And we've finished ourselves. It has to be a manufacturing country. Yeah, I think by 2030 we will probably have 80 to 90% of our new vehicles become electric. That is what is going to happen. And of course, we'll have to manufacture almost everything. We have to manufacture our own motors. We have to manufacture our own batteries. We have to recycle batteries. We have to manufacture chargers. We have to do all these things. We cannot afford to just import everything.
Okay. We'll come to the Indian battery manufacturing. So, what's your forecast? How soon will India start making?
I think for two-wheelers and three-wheelers, pack we are already starting to make, just starting to make. You will see more and more happening. Cell manufacturing will take about 3 years' time. Because now the government is coming with fairly strong incentive, and you will see cell manufacturing also taking place in about 3 years' time. Recycling should also become very common in about
5 years.
2 to 3 years. So otherwise we do not have material. We'll forever import material, and if you ever import material, that will not be good.
So I'm moving now from electric vehicles, and we will discuss the small project that you had talked about, which is a 48 volt DC system in one of the lab this thing. So it's been about 6 years ago that you made that video, and we just wanted a little bit of progress because we've not seen that being adopted very.
We have adopted. It has gone to 60,000 homes in remote areas of Assam, remote areas of Meghalaya, Manipur, Jammu and Kashmir, and Rajasthan. We have actually deployed 60,000 homes, plus about 3,000-4,000 system in other villages and some in cities.
Okay.
Very unfortunately, that the Indian government doesn't, Indian innovation doesn't back it. It keeps on questioning till it gets killed. So I think that is very unfortunate, because I think we could have made a mark and would have taken as a leadership, and still at least using 48 volt DC for lights and fans. These are all 48 volt lights, or fans in our home. All of them will save immense amount of energy. It's very unfortunate that
60,000 homes is a great traction. So I didn't know about that. Now I'm coming to again back to electric vehicles. One of the companies that got incubated over here is a company called Atulji.
Yeah.
I believe you were on their board of directors.
I'm not on their board, but yes.
All right. So there's a specific interest that we have as a PluginIndia about following this company, and one of the assumptions that this company has made is that charging stations can be a substitute for range, because their vehicles are notorious for very low range, right? And somehow, what's your take on that?
I think they are looking for city drive.
Okay.
First important thing that I want to point out, that they will all keep on evolving. Nothing is, they have started in some manner, it's a total startup. Getting into a vehicle was a very big job. So that is what they have been able to do. Now they will move on to do other things. City drive, 40, 50, 70 kilometers, how much does one drive every day? So you don't need too many charging stations. In fact, I have never felt a need of charging station. I have a vehicle with this 110 kilometer drive, and for 5.5 years I have been running it. I only charge at my home, and that also slow overnight charging. I think charging station is overhyped.
Now, a couple of days ago, there was this big problem that Texas faced about power outages and all that you've been following. And there's been a talk now of what hybrid energy model will be required in future, because they said we can't rely too much on solar, the wind also kind of rose up. So is there something which you think in the medium term where we say, okay, only this much percentage can go for the non-conventional renewable energy and so much percentage?
About 5 years back, I think there was a major incident in Chennai where we were flooded almost by half a floor to a more all over the city. And that lasted for 4 days. There was no electricity anywhere in the city. The only place that I know had, because all the diesel generator backup etc. were also flooded. The diesel stations were flooded. The only place I knew had power was my home for 5 days. The reason being that I had a battery, a storage, and I was using DC small amount of energy, lights and fans were working. For first day and a half there was no problem. When there could have been a problem after a year, day and a half, I thought that now we are going. I kept on finding out and looked like we are not going to recover even in a day and a half. Sun came out and my battery was full. So I think solar, wind, decentralized is
so
the way.
With
storage.
Okay.
Storage is going to play a major role.
So you're one of those rare academics who comes from a kind of a business family background. You're a Marwadi, and you got into academics, and you've done a very good job of marrying technology to business. And now the question comes to you as an educationist, right? In today's startup community, right? Obviously there is a mix of both technology and management education. Management education has its own set of problems, ethics, etc. Those are the kind of challenges. So what kind of education do you think is required today for having sustainable startups, which are, if you get what I'm saying?
I'll answer this question in a little bit roundabout and longer manner.
Okay, sir.
We in 80s started this industry academia interaction, and it grew by 90. That we will work with the industry, develop technology and give it licenses to them, they will give us something. At the same time, when we found that for some of the bright some of the bright technology ideas, they actually found it too risky. The industry will generally find it too risky. At that time, we sort of said, well, we will create a startup. And we will create a startup and develop the technology and take it to a stage by which time the regular industry will not find it risky, and then we will scale up. So essentially what we had brought in 80s onwards, that IITs and educational institutes should be a place which should do technology development relevant to India, so that we are no longer dependent all the time on import of technology. That was the concept that we started early, not substitution. It was just so that our products are developed in India and manufactured in India, instead of importing all the products. Not import substitution. We never did import substitution. Take something and say, what do I develop the product. We have to develop products which are more affordable to us.
Correct.
If we do import substitution, if we start from a product which comes from US or somebody, their cost point is very high.
Correct.
We in India require
Frugality.
very low cost. Affordability is very important in India. Sure. I learned a lot from that surf versus Nirma example. Okay. And first time I understood that India is such a large market. Only if you do the right product at the right price point, so that it becomes affordable.
Sure.
We are starting to do this. There was a professor in my department, very respected professor, whom I used to almost look up to as the elder. and he used to advise me on a lot of things, help me. He one day came to me and told me, Ashok, I think you are doing something wrong. I said, what happened? He says, educational institute is a place to generate for knowledge. It's a knowledge. We worship Saraswati.
Okay.
What you have started doing is bringing Lakshmi here. And he told me Saraswati and Lakshmi does not get along well with each other. You will get us into trouble. Institute will get into trouble. It hit me very hard. Because I also have heard about Saraswati and Lakshmi not getting well. And I thought about it for a day or two and came to the conclusion, sorry, he is not right. Because I don't think that this is a new conception that Saraswati and Lakshmi does not get along. Everywhere, knowledge has been used by human society to create wealth. Not necessarily wealth for an individual, wealth for the society. And the knowledge always has to be used to create wealth for the society. In India, we seem to have forgotten that during British rule. We used to do it before. And I said, well, I'm sorry. I told him that I don't think I agree with you. That I see in world over, educational institutes actually contribute to technology development, particularly, and they have to do this, and we have to do it. And that's what we started doing.
Okay.
And as I told you, startup versus established company is the issue of how risky the technology is. And if it is a totally new concept, established company will feel nervous. Sometimes they are not willing to take that bigger risk. For a startup.
So can I rephrase what you just said, saying that when it comes to education, if an education institute is not in a position to nurture knowledge from an application perspective, it is kind of failing in some way.
Yes, I think we have to change our educational institute to understand that, particularly technology education institute, that their goal has to be strengthening the technology of the country, of the nation, and of the world. But yes.
Okay. Last question, sir. So again, I started my career with the automobile industry, and engines and associated components form a very large part of the jobs in the automobile industry. So.
By the way, did you see the motors?
No, that's part I'm going to see.
Oh, that's very important.
So I thought because I took you to finish by other things, so after that. So coming back to the engine related. So a fair amount of employment today in the engineering industry is happening in the manufacturing related to engines and engine parts and so on, and EVs being very much simpler.
Disruptor.
Correct. So there's going to be a disruptor, and as an employment provider, which is what an engineering school is.
I understand your question. Then are we going to lose jobs? Are we going to lose GDP?
Net number of jobs. So there will be jobs.
This will be, yeah. Are we going to lose net number of jobs or net GDP? It's a question that was asked by Prime Minister to me when I first started talking about EV.
Correct.
And that also made me think. Take, for example, battery. So it consists of materials, cell manufacturing, and pack manufacturing.
Right.
If we don't take care of materials, which unfortunately we can't do mining, but we can do recycling.
Right.
93% of the material can be recovered from a cell phone battery, laptop battery, and reused.
Correct.
If we do that, if we do cell manufacturing, pack manufacturing is something like 40-50 components has to be made.
Yep.
If we do all this, there is a huge employment opportunity. If we in motors, each motor will require 50-60 individual components. I have a posters there. Please, you can film the posters. We're saying so many. If we do that, we are going to create huge number of jobs. Similarly in chargers. If you are going to import everything, all components, then certainly we'll lose out in GDP and as well as in jobs.
So what-
But if we make everything here, and which we are quite capable of,
But one observation here at this point, can you just kind of, so, in as far as electronic components are concerned, India has been notorious. We've
Sorry.
hardly made anything. We're still importing everything today. And this is in spite of being in the electronic age for the last 30 years.
Yeah, I understand.
So-
I understand. We are making, so the point is, I don't think components industry precedes the system industry. We have been also importing television. I was just talking to somebody, air conditioners we are importing. Why? If we start making systems, the next step will be to make subsystems and then we'll make components. There are some things. Resistors, capacitors, magnetics, PCB, they can be fairly easily, magnetics, they are not getting done in
Magnets,
India.
no, but-
Magnetics, they are not getting done in India. Surface mounted resistor, capacitor.
Sir.
But if you are going to use say Korean design, they will use Korean components. Then replacing is always going to be difficult. You have to have system design done in India.
Okay.
And you have to sort of say, okay, these resistors are now available, let's use that. These capacitors, inductors, magnetics, PCB, this. Then the only thing that will be left is integrated circuits. We are already doing IC designs in India.
Correct.
Whether it's a TI or ADI, their major designs are here.
Correct.
If design is getting done,
First level
I
design.
think what we need to do is encourage what is called that
Shared fabs.
shared fabs. We should use shared fabs to start getting the components. If you are using, now that can be done if I am designing my own controller. I can put my own component in that. In which case, if it is designed by here and I can get it even fabricated outside, it doesn't matter. Maybe the steps that has to be done is that I'll try to encourage saying get it as a raw silicon wafer after getting all the printing done. Let the packaging be done here. Let the testing be done here. And at the right time when all these things get we probably can look at foundry.
Because I think the
I think we always start with foundry and we are doing it wrong. Because so big expensive. If we set up a foundry, who will use that? Who will use the foundry?
The solar people can use it.
No. Solar cells
They
are
also
very
require
different.
silicon
No,
wafers.
it's very different. I don't think. Solar, we have got into a big mess. The Chinese have brought down the prices so much. It's a silicon wafer for solar is very different from what you require for the integrated circuits. And they have really marveled. They are today dominating in India. I think however the technology continues to evolve. If you want us to compete with whatever is available, we will not be able to. But the next generation, we can actually try to set it up and set up large scale manufacturing. India is the only one which can compete with China. And I think we have to strategically think up in terms of this.
So when you're talking of the next is the monocrystalline के बाद वाला जो आने वाला है.
जो भी आएगा मोनोक्रिस्टलाइन आएगा अभी 18-19-20% एफिशिएंसी का आता है.
Correct. 22 is what I heard from
22,
solar people
25,
now.
26, 28 आता रहेगा. टेक्नोलॉजी इवॉल्व होती रहेगी एंड टेक्नोलॉजी इवॉल्व चाइना में हो रही है, बाहर भी हो रही है. वी हैव टू कन्विंस समबडी that come and partner with us, manufacture in India so that you can sell to the world. Because if you try to set it up in the United States, manufacturing cost becomes too high.
So we should look at the leapfrogging in some
Yes,
sense, so forget all the
It brings
existing
back to your
technologies.
manufacturing question. We cannot just be a importer of all the manufactured goods. And I'm telling you again that remember 18th century, we had 20-25% of GDP.
World GDP.
World GDP. Why not? Why can't we get there?
Can do that. Yeah.
And we have not looked at it. And looked at it in a very narrow manner. This all make in India, Atmanirbhar also just barely become a slogan. Because finally you have to strengthen R&D. If you don't strengthen R&D and start making systems, and every single thing. Things will flow from here, there.
Okay.
It is not going to be from components, because is that component going to be used? If system is being made in Korea or China, they will use their components. Why will they use our components made in India?
Okay. Good. So the top-down approach is what you advocate to this.
On the designs, electronic designs.
Okay.
System design, not, I don't like the term top-down, but system design to every component, to all the things. If you do enough system design, there is no reason why India's resistors or capacitors or inductors or magnetics cannot be used, and gradually start using Indian ICs.
Cool. So I think we'll stop over here. Thank you very much, sir. Pleasure talking to you, and we look forward to more interactions with you.